Good morning to you and welcome to the Vicarage here at St Bart's on this Wednesday. Hope you're cheerful and well and looking forward to a good day with God today. Well, after the controversy of yesterday, I gave it my best shot. Difficult reading. And the fact we're looking at Revelation next week, I was quite glad to see that today is a Saints' Day. And Saints' Days always give us a different reading and something a bit shorter. And today I'm delighted to say is the feast of St Simon and St Jude. So the reading for today is Luke's Gospel, chapter 6, and I'm starting to read at verse 12. Now during those days, Jesus went out to the mountain to pray, and he spent the night in prayer to God. And when the day came, he called his disciples and chose 12 of them, who he also named apostles. Simon, who he named Peter, and his brother Andrew, and James, and John, and Philip, and Bartholomew, and Matthew and Thomas, and James son of Alphaeus, and Simon who was called the Zealot, and Judas son of James, and Judas Iscariot, who became a traitor. And this is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Well, the context is it's the beginning of the ministry of Jesus, and he's got various followers, and he picks the 12. And of course today we've got St Simon and St Jude. More on Simon in a minute. Jude, of course, is the patron saint of lost causes and policemen, interesting enough. The lost causes comes, I think, because Jude is short for Judas. And there were two Judases, as you've just learned. There was Judas Iscariot, who became a traitor, and there was the other Judas that the Bible often refers to as Judas not Iscariot. And because they were both Judases, they often get mixed up. And for that reason, because poor old Judas not Iscariot gets a bad name as well sometimes. Hence, I think he was called the patron saint of lost causes. Useless information for you today. Anyway, and today we're remembering St Jude and St Simon. St Jude, of course, has a church named after him on the Tetnall Road. Now, what can we learn from this? So it's the beginning of Jesus' ministry, and this is the time when he picks the 12. And I think the first thing to note is that before Jesus makes this major decision, he spent the night in prayer on the mountain. Now, Luke is very fond of reminding us how of Jesus and prayer. Luke talks a lot about prayer and Jesus praying and so on. But I do think it's noteworthy that before Jesus makes this massive decision about who the 12 are to be, he spends the night in prayer. Delighted the diocese spent a night in prayer the other day, praying, seeking God's direction. But I think it's good for us to actually that we should pray before we make major decisions. And you see Jesus doing that here. I think the other thing to say is Jesus made his decision. And I think his recruitment policy was quite interesting because if you see them on stained glass windows, they look as though butter wouldn't melt in their mouth. They look terribly holy. But actually, if you think about it, they were actually a rum group of blokes, really. They really were. I mean, when you think that Simon Peter, the rock, denied Jesus at his hour of need. One of them was a traitor. That's Matthew, because he was a tax collector, collecting taxes for the hated Romans. He was a traitor. Two of them were terrorists, because Simon the Zealot, which is Simon's day-to-day. Zealot means sort of extreme terroristy type thing, and it's thought that Judas Iscariot may have been part of that as well. So you've got one traitor, two terrorists. You've got two of them who are into ambition, James and John. They even getting their mother involved to try and get Jesus to make those two top dog. You've got the treasurer, who also turns out to be a traitor as well. I mean, they really were a rum group of blokes, really. And yet, it's amazing, isn't it, that Jesus chose these 12 ordinary guys and he made them extraordinary people. And I think that's what Jesus does with us. He picks us just as we are. These men were ordinary people, just like you and I. But they came to Jesus, and Jesus made them extraordinary people. And yeah, they made their mistakes, and yeah, they had their arguments and so on. But Jesus made them amazing, and they all did amazing things for God. And I think that's what we need to remember, is that, Jesus does not want plaster saints. Jesus wants ordinary human beings like you and me who are sold out for God. And through ordinary people like you and I, Jesus does extraordinary things. I think the other thing which is amazing, though, is how he gets them to work together. Because despite the rivalries. And I mentioned already that Matthew was a tax collector and that Simon and Judas Iscariot were both kind of terrorists, the kind of people who nowadays might blow up people like Matthew. And yet somehow Jesus got these people from completely the other ends of the divide. He got them to the sectarian divide, you might say. He got them to work together. And again, Jesus does that. He gives us a unity. He gives us a oneness in faith, that we are one in him. And in him, barriers get broken down and people can work together and they can find a love. Because having received the love of God, having received the love of Jesus, it frees us up to love others. And God, again, in them, in terms of unity, does extraordinary things too. And so, nice short reading for today. Remind us, like Jesus, that we should pray about it before we make difficult decisions, especially big decisions like this. Secondly, that Jesus picked some really very, very ordinary people and he made them extraordinary. And Jesus also picks ordinary people like you and me. And if he can do extraordinary things with them, he can do extraordinary, and does do extraordinary things with us today. But he also, in a remarkable way, gets people to work together, even if there have been other ends, even if they have disagreed implacably in the past. Jesus has the power, and by the vision of Jesus and the mission of Jesus, to get people to work together in an extraordinary way too.